Hello and welcome back to the ARK of E podcast. My name is Noah,
My name is Gavin.
and we're the Blanchard brothers, back with our first pod of 2024. Very weird to
Well,
say, but it
very
is
weird.
true. Yeah, and we're gonna start out the year the only way we know how, by looking back at the previous year.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about our favorite films of 2023. We did albums. That was a fun one. Even though we
hmm
couldn't play any tunes, we did TV. And a note on that, I mean, we talked a lot of TV this year, but I feel like our film conversations kind of dipped off like pre-Arktober.
Right.
And, obviously we've been catching up on various things, a lot of the big awards contenders, etc. A lot
Right.
of last minute watches, I'm sure.
hmm
So yeah, that's how we're going to kick this off. And then just as far as scheduling goes, to let everybody know, we'll be back next week. We're going to be resurrecting uh, a little show called Mann Hunters.
Indeed.
And maybe we'll talk a little bit more about what's going to be on that episode later in this episode. I don't know. I don't know. We shall see. But and then after that, you can look forward to, I think, 8 weeks, 8 straight weeks, baby, of TRUEsDays with Noah and Gav as we
Yes.
dive deep into True Detective Night Country, season 4. So
I thought the tagline was that we were mainlining the secret truth of the universe.
yeah,
That's what
that's
we do on this show.
that's what we do. Yeah. So everybody can get excited, go back and re-listen to our previous episodes, and but yeah, that's the plan for kind of the first chunk of the year here on the ARK of E podcast. But before we can do any of that new stuff, we gotta we gotta let everybody know like what was the best stuff of last year. Before we get into our list, any general overall thoughts about the year in film?
I think in general, this year proved that if you, even if it's the most unlikely thing that you would think could go together, if you put good stuff out, people are going to go see it regardless. Um, the big one in July or the big summer one that will may or may not wind up on our lists. Um, Barbenheimer, all that like
Yeah, we
that
we
combined. We've talked about it before,
we asked during that episode during the
Yeah,
summer, are movies back? And I guess I ask you again, Gavin Blanchard, my brother, are movies back in the
I
year of our
mean,
Lord 2023?
kinda, but again, no, because we spent the last half of the year not doing anything. Like you want to say they are,
There
but
was the weird gap, but I'm trying to get excited because I thought this was a phenomenal year for movies.
oh yeah, it was. I
I
just
have like very strong feelings about a lot of mine, like pretty far down the extended list, which is always good. And I would say overall, I saw about like 35 movies that I would say are like good to great that I would
right,
like all highly recommend. And that's a pretty good number in a given year.
right,
And I still have a lot of stuff I want to catch up on. But yeah, I thought it was a great year, but it did feel weird because we had that huge gap. There was, multiple strikes going on. I think
right,
2024 is going to be really strange and weird, and maybe, yeah, maybe it's going to feel like an off year, but for the time being, I don't know. I was very excited. A lot of kind of the big narratives for me, uh, a lot of my absolute favorite directors, like people who just like have me on day one, I'm buying a ticket kind of regardless of the project. A
hmm
lot of those people uh, had movies this year. Uh,
hmm
and then what was also nice to see, as we'll go through my list, a lot of those hit. But there was also some people I had never heard of before this year, who I'm very excited to see their next film. So,
right.
uh, yeah, very director driven, and uh, a lot of like hotly anticipated stuff for me personally. I don't know if people in the world felt that way. Like there was a lot of stuff they'd been waiting for. But I definitely had multiple films this year that it was like, oh, you know, so much expectations going in, and many of which, met or surpassed them. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Any,
agree. I definitely there was more excitement around getting to things this year. Just with, what we had coming out this summer. Um, but and then, towards the back half of the year, some of these have come out. But again, it's just weird to like to know, like it's, I don't know, to watch these as they're coming out and like getting amped up for it, knowing that like the little person that like just does the 9 to 5 job on the set is like, they're not working because uh, big studios don't want to like deal with that, and
mm-hmm,
they'd rather, I don't feel ashamed enjoying it, but it's like it's one of those things I tell people all the time. If you don't know anything about like that industry, that business, don't ever try and find out. Just enjoy what you get from it, and
right.
like and just be like have that naivete about Hollywood, and just like it's crazy what they're doing out there, like did you see all these movies and stuff? Like just having that willful childlike like impression of what filmmaking is. I wish I had that still, because as I'll explain when I mentioned some of them on my list, I got that again with some of these this year, and that's what
Okay.
I shoot for. But there's some of these I'm looking at, I'm like, oh, I know how they did that. Or like, ooh, I wonder how many takes that took. Or,
Right.
how did they manage, because it's just you and we know people who've been in movies, we know people who work on movies, we know people all over the place that do all different kinds of things. And so we're in the weird space of like we completely get the idea of like a director having a vision, and like he or she's doing that. But we also know that when that happens, there's at least 200 people that you don't see, and you don't even sit around and read their names because you get up and leave before everybody else leave when everybody else does. So they don't ever get their due. And it's all encompassing. And again, as lo- I can sit and look at every one of these on my list, go back and watch them again and again. And for the most part, I had fun with every one of them, regardless of whether I went and saw them in a theater. I caught them, streaming whenever they were first available, or, oh, wait, I missed that. Let me go back and do it. Or in the case of one of these, I was just like, okay, screw it. I'll just go ahead and buy this thing and watch it and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and we'll definitely highlight as we go along how we saw them, where
Hmm.
you can see them now,
Right.
and yeah, also, there's some I think we can squeak by without, but again, let's make an effort to actually like give you a rough plot outline, who's in it, etc. Pitch it
Yeah.
essentially.
Right.
Do you want to go first? Would you like me to go first? What
You can
how
go ahead and
how
start it out. That's fine.
want to do this? Okay. My number 10 favorite film of 2023 is Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. Did you have a chance to catch this one, brother?
No, I just saw that it showed up on Hulu, and I thought to myself, I should probably watch that one because it's probably on his list,
Okay, I guess it's on
but
Hulu
I
and
hadn't gotten to it yet.
you saw it on Hulu?
It's available to watch on Hulu. No, is
Okay,
it? No, it's on
it's on
Paramount.
Peak. No, it's on
Peacock, sorry.
Peacock. Yes.
Peacock, yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say I believe exclusively streaming on Peacock.
Right, my bad.
So as of like this weekend, so that's where people can go check it out. Came out in early November, I believe. I obviously had heard, hey, Alexander Payne, Paul Giamatti, they're back together. This one's been making a little bit of noise on the festival circuit. So the basic outline, period piece, and it is set in a I believe they're in New England. I forget the exact setting, but it's a prep school, and Paul Giamatti is kind of the curmudgeonly professor there, and he is tasked with staying with all of the holdover students over Christmas break. So all the kids that don't have anywhere else to go, and he's there with the school chef and a few other people, and basically it's an old school character study. Uh, very naturalistic, very organic. Lots of laughs, lots of heart. Maybe the most like joyful cry I had in a movie theater this year.
Hmm.
Really hit me in the feels. uh, I think will kind of might be a new holiday classic for me, where it scratches that itch of like it's got that certain amount of melancholy that I like from, holiday movies. Uh, but it also has a certain amount of hopefulness. Fantastic performance from Paul Giamatti. Divine Joy Randolph, also incredible. And newcomer Dominic Sessa, I believe is the name. Just crushing it. This is not one that's written by Alexander Payne, surprisingly, but I mean, I love Nebraska, but this might be my favorite of his since the kind of initial, the amazing run of Citizen Ruth, Election, About Schmidt, and Sideways. Like those four in a row, pretty incredible
Hmm.
run. So another case of a filmmaker I'm a pretty big fan of, uh, who had a project. I skipped Downsizing, which I know people have various feelings on. That was the Matt Damon
Oh, I saw.
Hong
Yeah,
Chow
I know
one
what you're, I
from
know
a
what you're
couple
talking
years
about.
ago. Yeah, I missed that one. I know a lot of people actually stick up for it, but yeah. So that it was just it is totally going for that 70s vibe of just like, unlikely friendship and like found family sort of thing. But it's done so well. It was a nice throwback, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The Holdovers, my number 10.
Okay. Cool. Okay, so my number 10 is a movie called 1001, directed by a young lady named A.V. Rockwell. It is her directorial debut. And it looks like this came out earlier this year, almost a year ago now, January at Sundance, and then premiered in March of this year. I caught it on streaming. I believe it is on, I saw it on Peacock. I don't know if it's still on Peacock. It may be on Amazon right now.
I'll double check for you.
And the basic premise is it is about a young hairdresser who decides to kidnap her own son out of the um, childcare system in New York City and just kind of follows her raising him in New York City throughout different time periods. So we have like the early 90s, we obviously have 9/11 era, and then we have shortly after that. And you just watch, her and the son and then the father, or maybe not the father or the boyfriend or whoever, as you're at these different points in, throughout her life slash the boy's life as he grows up. Uh, So yeah.
It is available on Amazon Prime now.
Okay.
I
Okay.
missed this one. It was on my long list to catch up with.
Hmm.
Glad to
Yeah.
glad to see it making an impression here. Is this an A24 or Neon who had this?
One of the two. I feel like we're going to be asking that like all, the whole
This
entire episode.
this poster is slightly out of focus here on IMDb. I can't see the production credits at the bottom.
Hmm.
Not sure on that one. I assumed it was
Okay.
one of the two, but I could be completely off. Okay, a
Yeah.
1001. Uh,
Hmm.
I do like Tiana Taylor quite a bit.
Hmm.
She's gonna be in the Book of
Of Clarence.
Clarence.
Yep.
Probably the first like big release I'm excited for. Coming this year, 2024. Still weird to say that that's this year, but it is.
It's only been a day. We'll
Uh,
get over it.
only been a day. Only been a day. Uh, so yeah, another. I assume this one probably probably got some gut punches in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
there's
I know
just
it's been available streaming for a bit, and I honestly,
yeah.
I don't know, I haven't been in the mood,
It's
honestly.
yeah, and it's one of those where it's like you I only noticed like it was more of a gut punch again because of the whole film brain or whatever. Because like when the gut punch happens, her delivery of it, you're just like, oh well that's why right there. That's why you watch movies. That's why you go to acting class.
Yeah,
That's why you study with a teacher to turn that where'd she go to turn that on that day? How many times they do that one? Because it was just so much like a oh shit, oh okay. Oh, okay, I see what's going on here, And so again, that's where we get into the whole thing of like, don't learn about the movie industry. If you don't know, just don't worry about it. Just pay your money and stay at home. But having that insight, knowing what it's like, yeah, of course. Like it's just one of those where like when it happens, the moment it happens for me at least later on in the film, I just it wrecks, but it's also like I can appreciate it because I'd be lying to myself if I tried to say that, you know, this wasn't expected and I had the person I've been watching on screen the last hour or so hadn't been doing everything to lead to this moment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and I, as much as you're, to me, you're like playing with whether you want to believe or not believe these certain things. I don't know. She was really good in it. I really do want to. I can't wait for Book of Clarence, but like, I hope that I hope she gets into more and more stuff. And I'm interested to see where this young filmmaker goes to because this is her directorial debut, and I thought it was great. So I'll be interested to see what she winds up doing after this. So
Absolutely.
yeah, 1001.
My number nine is probably the most engrossing, like moment to moment, just completely glued to the screen sort of experience I had this year. It's Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall, and it is a pretty pretty masterful and very tricky uh, multi-language mystery thriller.
Hmm.
Basically, uh, we- mostly it takes place in France, but you've got a mix of French, German, and English dialects throughout the film. And it concerns a wife who is accused of the murder of her husband after he falls from their kind of remote cabin. He falls from like the third story,
Hmm.
and the key witness is their blind son, who's about 11 or so. And
Okay.
so it's the bulk of the film is basically a courtroom thriller, but in the French court system, which is
Oh,
obviously not something I had much awareness of at all.
a joke, you mean?
No, just like
I'm sorry, I had to.
it's so fundamentally like different from our system where when it first starts, you just out of the gate are like, okay, wait a second. That nobody said object for like 5 minutes there. There was like conjecture and like leading and all sorts of stuff going on there. And you just kind of quickly realize it's like, oh, that's not how shit works here at all. That like, whoa, okay. Um, but it's
Is it
all
are they flipped like other country like from us? They're like you have to prove innocence, not prove guilt. It's a lot harder to prove innocence than just to prove guilt.
It's I don't know how I would even do there's so many little nuances to it that I just wasn't even so yeah, I that in and of itself was like kind of a revelatory like whoa, okay, this is a whole other element. But the whole movie is anchored by a just absolute tour de force from Sandra Huller, who I was not familiar with. I've always wanted to see Tony Erdmann, really well regarded movie from I think like 5, 6 years ago now. Uh,
Hmm.
and I just never, it's never been streaming anywhere that was convenient. And it's also like 3 hours long. So just haven't had a chance to get to it.
Oof.
But so I've heard her name before, but I've never actually seen her in action. And she is just, it's incredible because you spend the the movie plays a lot with perspective. And so you're kind of thrust into the situation as it happens. And then when you're in the court, for instance, like the only time you ever get a flashback to like, oh, well, what was their marriage like in this relationship? Like, how can I pick a side if I don't know really who this
Right.
dude was and I haven't seen him at all? And it's like the only time you ever do, in fact, see the husband, this is not really like a spoiler for the movie, but is when they have like actual things that we know were like factually true. I guess if that makes sense. I don't want to spoil
Hmm.
like the context of that. But the only time we see anything even remotely approaching a traditional flashback is the way it would be presented to a jury essentially, to a court. So it gives us this remove so that you're constantly playing investigator and constantly trying to be, the judge essentially and figure out, well, did she do it or did she not?
Hmm.
And it is a movie that plays, not again, not to spoil where it goes, but it does kind of invite it's a little bit of, we talked about Tar last year being a bit of like a Rorschach test. Um, this movie even more so in that I don't think it like tips its hand much in like how it goes. And I know that can be very frustrating for some audiences. I saw it with Brendan and his girlfriend, and they were not very big fans of it because of that ambiguity. But
Well, that's any
if you're
European film.
exactly if you're open to that sort of thing, uh, I think just an incredible. And again, there's another courtroom, or there's several courtroom movies this year that
Oh
were
yeah.
kind of getting back to scratching that itch of like the mid to late 90s stuff we grew up on. And yeah, this is maybe the most like high level execution of it I've seen in quite some time. Because of the way they do submissions for international feature, France didn't pick this for whatever reason. And so but it could still sneak through and get a Best Picture nom because there's a lot of momentum behind it. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, and it did very well with the specialty box office. It is rentable right now on all your usual streaming services, but it is not just available free anywhere. But we got about 2 months before like big award season starts to kick in proper. I think like, well, actually maybe tail end of January, early February
Golden
is Golden
Globes are
Globe.
like next week, right?
Oh, never mind. They did move them up this year. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, a good time to catch up. I believe it is nominated at the Globes, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But yeah, definitely worth your time. Uh, and again, if you're scared off by subtitles, do know that this is, I would say it's like a third of the movie, the way it's mixed in. So you do have to do some reading, and it gets a little tricky in the courtroom sequences because it's very fast and furious. But yeah, incredible performance from Sandra Huller, and I don't have the guy's name in front of me at the moment, but the gentleman who plays the prosecutor, um, absolutely incredible. Like it was one of those where it's just like, where did this guy come from? Like,
Hmm.
holy shit. Huge recommend. Yeah, Anatomy of a Fall, my number nine.
Okay. My number nine is a little movie that I saw on Netflix. I believe it's still available on Netflix called They Cloned Tyrone.
Hell yeah.
Um, did we talk about it before? I
It
feel like
did
we
come
talked
up
about
on
it like a
we
little bit on or Halloween, October maybe,
possibly, but remind
somewhere around
remind
there.
people the premise and who's involved.
Oh, well, it's Mr. John Boyega, uh, and Jamie Foxx, and it's Tiona Paris is she is in this one, which is if Audrey can talk, you say I feel yes, we've talked about this before because I remember you us discussing people who were in it. But essentially, um, it there's in this town that this guy lives in, he slowly discovers this nefarious plot that maybe some unknown entity is cloning people, putting them out on the streets, and he just starts to notice that the world around him isn't exactly what he thinks it is. And it's just I don't know. I I have no idea if this is like a complete original screenplay or if it's some kind of graphic novel somebody stole from. But regardless, I love the premise of it. I watched the trailer and I thought, okay, I think I know what this movie is. I watched it and I was like, that is not what I thought that movie was. It was 10 times better. And it's just available now for anybody to go watch on Netflix. And I think everybody should.
From what I'm seeing here, original screenplay.
That's what I thought. That's what
I
I
think
thought.
just kind of inspired by the blaxploitation films of the
Right,
70s,
yes.
but kind of like, you know,
It doesn't lean into the Black Dynamite
it's more
like
of an earnest
caricature.
take on it.
It's like
Yes.
well, no, it's a what if I'm gonna make an exploitation movie, I'm gonna do it now,
That
and I'm
what
gonna do it like
that's what I'm saying, an
with
earnest
yeah,
take on it in
right.
terms of like I'm not like,
There's no crazy lenses.
I'm
There's
not
no throwback
parodying
to
the
right,
genre. I'm just
exactly,
like I'm doing what the genre would be now,
right.
which yeah, again, this one's still a huge blind spot for me this year. I haven't quite had time for it, but I've heard great things
It
and
is
glad to see it here on your list. That was your number
nine.
nine. My number eight, uh, definitely got some play earlier in the year. It's uh another one from a favorite director of mine, only his third outing, but the incredible Matt Johnson, and the movie is Blackberry. Did you ever get a chance to catch this one?
Did they re-release this as like a series on
So
Amazon?
right now, I believe on Amazon or on AMC Plus, okay, if you have AMC Plus, which again,
Right.
we're huge advocates for, no ads here, but you should have it. You should go get it. It's
Yeah,
good,
totally.
good streaming service. What they did was they basically released the director's cut
Okay.
and changed it into a three-part limited series, if you will. So each episode was about 45 to 50 minutes. And yeah, it was restructured essentially as, yeah, as a TV show.
Okay, because I
But
also
but that's just the director's cut. It's just out there. It's something they made available on streaming. But you can also just go and watch Blackberry, the movie, also on AMC Plus. Like
okay. Well, because I didn't know which was which, and I listened to
it's kind of something they did, I believe, around mid-year because BlackBerry came out very early this year.
I feel like
For
when they
large swaths of the year, this was my number one.
yeah.
I love this movie, but for people unfamiliar, it's a rise and fall story of BlackBerry of the little phone, the widescreen
Yeah.
phone with all the
The thing
full
before the
keyboard on
iPhone.
it. Yes, before the iPhone came around and killed it, and it is essentially the easy pitch on it, which I think I probably used in an episode at some point. It's like Canadian Succession meets The Social Network, but that's kind of doing it a disservice. Absolutely like career best performances from Jay Baruchel, but the true revelation is Glenn Howerton,
See,
who
that's yeah.
uh,
I
we've threatened to do it so many years. And I think, I don't know, as strong as I feel about this year and the wide variety of great shit that was out there, and as a way to even talk about more of these movies beyond just this episode, I think we got to do the Arkies, man.
yeah.
I think we got to finally do them. And I could definitely tell you
Yeah.
on the short list of our five nominees, Glenn Howerton is definitely up there for supporting actor in Blackberry. Also, Matt Johnson, the director, who wrote this thing and also stars in it. Just incredible. I love this guy. He made The Dirties and Operation Avalanche, two fantastic movies. Um, just one of the most exciting Canadian indie filmmakers working right now. This was like a huge step up for him in all sorts of ways. I love all of his movies, but this was just, it was like getting to see a guy you've seen the evolution of already, and you've already been super impressed by, just like kick it up another notch. And it's just great stuff, dude. It's like genuinely riveting, very funny movie. That's a recurring theme on my list. A lot of these are movies that really made me laugh. And as much as we maybe bemoan the loss of like the big studio comedy, the Apatow sort of movies. If like that's the most recent example, I guess. But as much as we kind of complain about like those kind of disappeared, like where are those sort of movies? Comedy is alive and well, but it's in these play. It's like it's almost like my brand of comedy is out
Hmm.
there a lot, but it's not in these traditional places. But
Right.
uh yeah, BlackBerry just has some of the best like guys in rooms talking shit to each other stuff you'll ever see. It's a lot about ego and just like
A lot of dad
male
stuff I heard.
like a lot of just like masculine dynamics in
Yeah.
general. It's great. It doesn't overplay any of that stuff, and it yeah, it manages again while I reference like, oh, Succession or Social Network, it doesn't feel like it's just like a baby version of that, or like it's like it's very much its own thing. He finds it's a very unique energy for it. Huge recommend, and again, it's available on AMC Plus. Uh, I I have not personally done the director's cut. I want to at some point, but I I assume I recommend that as highly as I do the regular movie. But either one, whichever
Well,
way you want to
he
go with it. But
Glenn
obviously,
Howerton sold it to me by what I listened to him talking to Pete Holmes for 2 hours and talking about the character and like what he did, and he mentioned like going to the director and being like, "I we got to do something like this. That guy, this guy is utterly reprehensible." And he's like, "Dude, your character's testing through the roof. Everyone loves him." Oh, okay. I get like he. It took him realizing that like people who were watching it were like loving that character for him to realize what he was doing because he just wasn't making sense to him the entire time he was doing it.
He
He was just like, I
is
don't really, it's, but like, it's brilliant. I love listening to him talk about
he's dialed
anything.
in such a way
He
where
knows what
it's
he's doing.
like I've always he's long been my kind of secret fave of that entire cast on Sunny.
Yeah.
Uh and they all are great and function great together, but he's always been the one guy who I was like I really want to see him stretch a little bit and do something different. And he just like devoured this. It's like he'd been waiting to do something like this and kind of show his stuff. Really kind of a dark horse candidate as far as Oscars go, but like he had a lot of momentum earlier in the year where people were like, "Hey, pay attention to this." And I don't know if the directors like, there seems to have been some confusion like from you where it's like, "Wait, is it was this a TV series or what?" And like what is it now? Um I don't know if they've communicated that in the best way, but it's like, but yeah, it's not like it's going to be nominated for Emmys and stuff. It'll be in consideration for your insight. He did get an Indie Spirit nom. He's in the performance category, which is cool, but uh, because they just lump everybody
Right.
together. It's just best. I think it's just best lead performance and best supporting, and there can be up to like
Same with
20 in
SAG.
each category. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you missed it earlier in the year,
Yeah.
when
I'll
I
definitely check
shouted
that out
about it,
later.
Blackberry, just a great time. Really good movie. Okay,
All
your
right.
number eight, sir.
My number eight, we've talked about at length, but it is on here again. It is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Number
Yes.
eight.
Part what,
One, part
Gavin?
one, part one, part
That is correct. Yes, we did a whole build up to it. That was a huge chunk of our first part of our year.
Yeah,
That
we did a
was
little
a ton of
on
fun going
the
back through all of those.
we did a Billy on the street with it as soon as we got
We
we
did an
got
on
done.
location.
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure did. And we both had a fantastic time with it. This is on my
Yeah.
long list.
Again, it
I
goes
don't
back
know.
to what we were talking about earlier. Like
We'll talk
it's
after about where stuff
yeah.
actually landed. I don't want to step on the toes of anything else. But
But it was like an event before the other event that kind of like it
yeah, it kind of
it manufactured itself as an event to go see by dropping that whole like, hey, do you see what Tom Cruise is doing for you guys, by the way? Like it manufactured that, right? It purposely showed you that. So guys like you and I and other people who are just kind of like, oh wait, there's no superhero movie. Wait, what's Tom Cruise doing? He's still off a mountain, you say? Okay, I'll go. Is he still
yeah,
alive? Oh, he's doing press sports, so nothing happened. Okay, well, it must be. No, no. Oh, wait, he did. Oh, okay. And you can watch and see like how many times he threw himself off that mountain for you.
yeah.
You know, that's
I did
organically
still
manufactured.
feel like
You
it
know,
should have released uh either like a week earlier or just dropped like 2 weeks after Barbenheimer. Because again, we talked about that weird like there was nothing happening.
right? But was
And
that's my
weirdly, it
question,
got cannibalized by all of that. And like
right?
even its IMAX screens, it's like then it turns around and it's fighting Oppenheimer for screens. Whereas if it had been late to the party, it would have been the opposite, where it's like it probably would have cut into a little bit of how well Oppenheimer did because it would have come in and it would have had some of those screens on opening nights and they would have
Right.
been shifting them back and forth. But
So
yeah,
that's the real inside baseball question. Is Barbenheimer an organic thing that just materialized out of like guys trying to go see Oppenheimer and seeing all these girls dressed up for Barbie and like guys looking at other boyfriends who got dragged to Barbie like, hey, don't you want to come over here with us? Is that like an organic thing that was just manufactured thanks to like the internet? Or was that like something that a like exec secretary just kind of slipped into the ether and just like put it
no,
out there to make it a thing? Because I
it
feel like
very
it's
much.
organic.
No,
I
it
don't feel
very
like it was
much
anything that
seems
was
like
manufactured.
it was an organic thing on the internet when it was just this was like months and months prior, and that's what weirdly like helped it gain steam and snowball was it was just the fact that they were announced on the same dates.
Right.
and people were like, "Hey, that's weird that like these two are gonna come out," and like one person makes a meme, all of a sudden it becomes a thing, and I think some very savvy marketing people at Warner Brothers, particularly on the Barbie side of things, were like, "Oh, oh, okay, oh, this is a thing now," and strategies were then made going forward from there for months and months and months leading up. Uh, yeah, and it paid off.
Oh
But
yeah.
we're not talking about either of those. We're talking about Mission Impossible. We're we still stole
No,
its thunder.
that's what I'm getting at is like I feel like if you're gonna manufacture this thing where like I'm gonna show you what it's doing, you would think that again, you he pushed a whole movie a year back. You know, the movie that
I
we
know.
argue could save that he pushed it back a whole year.
Yeah,
So
that's why it just
maybe if
seems
you
like it was just
it
such a
seems ill
fumble
you're right,
after
exactly that's what I'm
after
getting at. It's like as
it
good as it
was
was, as much as I
hubris.
loved it.
It was maybe a little bit of hubris that like, oh, we don't need to worry about this thing going over here. Like, we
Yeah,
don't need to worry about those two. We'll hold strong. And it's like, but no, you won't. No,
right.
you won't, Tom. And it's just a numbers game. People want to see the next thing. And it's like people who missed it in the first week, then you're waiting for them to like catch back up. Meanwhile, your screens are getting eaten up by the phenomenon of those two movies. And they didn't see it coming. They didn't plan for it. They
Hmm.
they should have pulled the trigger earlier. They should I mean, honestly,
I think they
because
should
we
have
see
waited
it.
till the end of summer.
No, 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 because we saw how this went down. They should have gone head to head with Fast X and just slaughtered them. That's what they should have done, dude. If we had to pick that weekend,
But wait, aren't those two? That's the same studio, right? I
no,
thought Paramount was doing like.
Fast X is Universal.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It is Universal.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Paramount is yeah, Universal is NBC Universal.
Paramount is who? ABC?
Who is CBS,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
right? I don't know. I don't
I
know
mean,
who
it's all
owns all this
Viacom,
shit.
baby. It's it's all Time
Whatever.
Warner. Who cares?
They weren't going to cannibalize it. Dude, I mean, yeah, okay. I don't know. We
No,
wish it would have
because
made more.
you
We
needed
wish it would have
Fast
made
X.
more of a dent.
No, no,
I
you
hope
needed
that,
Fast X to come out so that you can see how a shitty Rome like driving sequences, and then you
yeah.
could see Dead Reckoning where it's like, now son, I'm going to show you how to do it. Like, then I know you got a plan, I know you think you're great, but you just sometimes you got to
But
watch the master
I was
work.
gonna say, but think about those going head to head in the same weekend, where
I
people are
Yeah,
just
that would,
like
yeah,
it's blowing it off the screen. Like I
yeah.
don't know, maybe we're telling a different tale here, but it'll be on Paramount Plus soon enough. I believe in early February. Last time I checked, they are making us wait for it, but it's worth the wait. We had a great time with it.
Oh yeah, it was
Uh,
great.
Mission Impossible:
Dead
Dead
Reckoning
Reckoning Part One.
Part One.
Gavin's number 8 favorite film, 2023.
Yes.
Alrighty. My number 7 got up again, definitely shouted it out earlier in this year. So I'll try and be a bit brief. But it's called Sick of Myself. And again, a little bit of a debate because technically this one was a festival movie in 2022, but nobody could see it here until this year. It is
Huh.
available on Paramount Plus. It is from Christopher Borgli, who some people may recognize as the director of Dream Scenario, the Nicolas Cage film from about a month ago that came and went at the theater and I was unable to catch, and it is still only purchasable right now. So I'll let you know whenever I can rent that one. Not going to make an appearance on my list, unfortunately. Uh, but that is, yeah, so two movies out this year, essentially. And this guy operates in maybe a bit of a Michel Gondry, Charlie Kaufman disciple sort of thing. But he has found quite a big fan in Mr. Ari Aster of Hereditary and Midsommar fame, who I believe produced this one and also produced Dream Scenario. And Sick of Myself is about basically it's the best satire I saw all year. And it's a
Hmm.
satire about narcissists. It's a couple who basically have an increasing back and forth of uh who can get the most likes on social media, the most attention within their friend group, uh, et cetera, et cetera. And it escalates from there. I don't really want to spoil where it goes. You can take a look at some of the imagery associated with the movie, but it was just the epitome of sticking to the bit. It is all subtitled, but we're talking huge belly laughs. It's not going to be everybody's sense of humor or cup of tea, but it certainly was mine. Uh, just check out the trailer. It gives you a taste of the vibe, but again, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I get the bit, but like, how is this a movie? And then
Right.
the escalation of said bit uh, is where the magic happens.
Hmm.
Yeah, some of the hardest laughs I had all year. Huge recommend. And I can't wait to finally catch Dream Scenario because he's somebody new that I'm very excited about, along with Justine Triet, who I mentioned from Anatomy of Fall. I had not seen any of her prior movies, and I definitely want to go back and catch some of those. So, uh, yeah, that is my number seven. Sick of Myself, and you can watch that on Paramount Plus. It's a little gross. Heads up, a little
Okay.
gross. Not too gross, but it's a little gross.
All
Just the
right.
right amount of gross. It's not full on Cronenbergian, but it's gross. Yeah.
Okay.
But you'll like it. You would like it, brother. Uh,
Okay.
add it to your list.
All right. I got you.
Okay. You're number seven, sir.
Oh,
Lucky number seven.
we were just talking about it.
Oh, we were?
Oppenheimer.
Well, sorry. I mean to step on the toes.
No, no, no. That's my fault. I kept going and talking about it because like they're written so close together, and I forgot you hadn't given your seven, so I kind of forgot I was talking about Mission Impossible because Oppenheimer is right in front
Oh,
of it. So like that's
totally
why I
good.
went back and forth.
Another movie
But no,
we
we have
did a
talked
huge
about.
episode on as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I mean, and ideally,
Would
I
you
think if
mind,
you
excuse me, would you mind breaking down the plot of this one for the listeners?
okay,
Just
so
okay.
essentially, you you understand that at some point in time after developing the atom bomb, J. Robert Oppenheimer pissed off Robert Downey Jr. so much by saying one thing about him in front of Congress that Robert Downey Jr. went full blown mean girl revenge mode and took every single shot he could at trying to basically defame him and just destroy his legacy. When he was perfectly fine to just let that happen, but he had it inside of him to let people know, hey, I built the atom bomb. I never told you you should fucking use it. And that's pretty much it, you know. It
In a
in
nutshell.
a nutshell. For a movie about Oppenheimer, there's a lot of Robert Downey Jr. as that senator dude. And again, if we're going to give awards to people, if he's not listed as a best supporting, I'm a little upset. Just me
Uh,
personally.
well, I will second that as an Archie nominee. That he should
Right.
definitely be on there.
Yeah.
So we got two, and
Yeah.
maybe we'll continue to build the category if we can
Yeah.
remember to do that.
Can we do a thing where we can like send out all the people that email us? Can we send all the people that email us like a little like drop-in thing? They could like
We can make a
message back and let us.
ballot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I can make like a little site or a
Yeah.
poll of some sort. We could do it
Yeah.
on social media. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. We
Figure
could
it
do
out.
it post.
Maybe we'll do it live. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe we
Yeah.
won't do it in post.
We call people randomly.
Uh, but yeah, Oppenheimer, just outside of my top 10 is my number 11 this year. Uh, yeah, definitely one of the most memorable theatrical experiences, just on an anticipation level, not. And mine was not the like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this movie. I definitely went in kind of with my arms crossed, um, which is to say, like, I like almost all of Christopher Nolan's movies. I don't think there's really any that I dislike, but I've been a little meh on him as of late. I liked Tenet, didn't love it, but then have like fallen in love with it over the course of like several rewatches.
Uh-huh, that's what a lot
Um,
of people say.
yeah. Uh, and And yeah, definitely a guy that like I've always kind of wished that he would like dial it back. We've talked about this. And when it was announced that he was doing it, I have my reservations about like his style clashing with maybe what I thought a movie about Oppenheimer should be. And I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't that at all. And I thought he actually made a lot of uh, bold choices for him in terms of like stuff that's outside of his comfort zone
Right.
in terms of the way he normally approaches things. And that was intriguing to see. And again, to put some of what he does in the tech, not just the technical aspects and the style of editing, etc., but it's a very demanding movie in terms of its pace and a lot of other things and some of the ideas it puts forth. And again, to put that in a big, like summer blockbuster with like a huge stacked cast that a ton of people are going to go see, that is ultimately a 3 hour movie with a bunch of guys talking in rooms and have it be like, for, for my money, again, some of the most riveting shit I saw in a theater this year. That's kind of the achievement in and of itself. So,
And not to mention that you put it out the same weekend. It's announced that it's coming out the same weekend as like a movie about a doll,
well, again,
essentially.
that was always we've talked about this before, but
Yeah.
that was always his weekend. That's like his
Yeah.
lucky weekend.
Yeah, I know. And did
And
it not pay off?
Yeah, but Warner
Yeah.
Brothers, the scorned ex-girlfriend or what, however you want to look at him, whatever. I guess he's the scorned ex-girlfriend by Warner Brothers, but they're just the pissy ex-boyfriend who are just like, whatever, we're putting it out same day. Deal with it. And then it becomes
Right.
this whole thing that elevates both movies. What an incredible story. Just don't think we'll have anything like that going in 2024, but maybe people will try and make it happen again.
Yeah.
I think it's again to the point of it being very organic. I don't think it's anything that you could ever have predicted or anything that you can force or replicate in the future, although I'm sure many will try. And we're going to
Right.
see some weird shit in the next couple years as a result of those two movies being as successful as they were. All right, that was your number seven.
Yes.
Any other thoughts on Oppenheimer? I mean, again, we did a whole episode. Scroll back in that
Yeah, we
feed.
did, but I also just want to say, we did mention RDJ, but there are a ton of boys in there that come to play. As much as it is a bunch of dudes talking in rooms,
We maybe
some of those
sneak,
dudes are like doing a lot of great talking,
you
like
know,
just guys you just don't think about, and you're like, holy shit, man, what's
maybe
Jess
we're
Harden been
limiting
doing?
maybe we're limiting it to five, but maybe, since there's two of us, maybe we each pick three. So maybe we make it six guys in each category. And
Yeah.
I'm just saying maybe we throw in Benny Safdie. Maybe he's in there.
Oh, he was the best. He has the best line in the movie, and
I'm
the
just
big a
saying
bigger one.
for just, for your consideration, just
Yeah.
something to think about. It's rentable. I think the 4K is on its way. But you got to pay for this one for right now. Not easily streamable. I guess ultimately though, it's a universal picture, so won't it be on Peacock at some point?
I would imagine
Can't
so.
wait to stream Oppenheimer on Peacock.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be there eventually. We
I
shall
don't know.
see.
I don't no idea what their timeline is. Some stuff it seems like it gets there so quick, and some stuff it seems like it takes forever. Like I have no idea what they're doing.
Uh, okay. Number six for me is my most recent addition to the list. I saw this one a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago now, and definitely one of my most anticipated. A filmmaker I am very fond of. Not everybody's cup of tea, but certainly mine. Mr. Yorgos Lanthimos, and his latest is called Poor Things, starring one Miss Emma Stone in what would definitely be an Archie nominee for Best Actress. Absolutely killing it. Uh, Also, great supporting turns from Mr. Willem Dafoe. Uh, And Mark Ruffalo, who I'm also throwing into our supporting, he's in there. He's so we got four so far for our dudes. And we got we have Sandra Huller and Emma Stone for actresses. Do you want to throw in Tiana Taylor from 1001?
Yeah, we can do that.
Again, I haven't seen it, but if we're just,
Yeah,
we're building the categories.
I'd throw her in there for
And
best actor for
obviously,
sure.
I will, anything that are blind spots for each of us, we'll watch before the voting, and then we'll all be properly informed. Just like
Yeah,
all the Oscar voters are supposed to be. They send out all these screeners. They're supposed to watch this shit.
yeah.
I don't know that everybody does though.
I don't think
You're
they do
supposed to
either.
watch whoever's not nominated. But anyways, okay.
Not Google
Uh,
their name and see how popular they are.
Poor Things is an adaptation of a novel that I had no familiarity with at all. I just had the vague outline that this was a Frankenstein-esque story from Mr. Yorgos Lanthimos. And it is quite unique, like all of his films. And this one is written or adapted rather by Mr. Tony McNamara, who he worked with on The Favorite, which was kind of the closest thing he's had to a crossover success, which also had Emma Stone in it. Olivia Colman won Best Actress, obviously. Rachel Weisz, but that was a crossover art house hit. And as much as like when I saw that at the Terrace, our indie theater here, like it was packed. Like it got all of the like the over 50, I care about movies crowd to go check it out the way they
Hmm.
presented it. And I didn't really get to have that experience with this one, but my hope was because I knew going in that it was very sexually explicit in
Oh,
in huge parts of it. And I kind of I was hoping to have the experience of like I want to see this in a packed house with a bunch of people who are not prepared for it, who were like, "Oh, it's Emma Stone, and oh, this is up for all these awards." And then to kind of get her to see everybody's, but you know, so as it goes, I did go to the indie theater. First night it was available there, and it was just me and like, 7 or 8 other hardcore Lanthimos heads who were excited to see it and knew what they were getting into. And,
Yorgies? You guys call it shop Yorgies? Is that what it is?
sure, Lanthies is what I prefer,
Lanthies?
but it's whatever. Lobsters. Yeah. So, uh, yeah, without spoiling
Oh yeah.
much
Okay.
in the way of the actual plot mechanics, Emma Stone plays a character who essentially has a child's mind in Emma Stone's body and is basically starting from
Mm.
square one mentally in the body of Emma Stone. So
Hmm.
there you go. And it's her you know, being basically raised in isolation by the Frankenstein-esque Willem Dafoe character. And eventually, of course, she sets out into the world and goes on a rather interesting adventure where she discovers, what's out there. And of course, it's this very, very interesting play on, you know, and it's period set, but very fantastical in its way at the same time. It's got some steampunk influence in terms of the visuals. Uh, Very unique, but of course it's got a lot of satirical elements, and it's very much like what if we could explore society in general, even though it is a period piece, it's definitely just about like how we are now, very much so. Uh, but what if you could explore it through a kind of a childlike lens, and then of course complicate that further by it being a woman. So, uh, yeah, not going to be for everybody. It's done reasonably well in very limited release, but I did kind of see that it maybe didn't make the dent people were hoping for. It may be just a little too fucking weird for some people. It's also a little long, but I had a ton of fun with it. Lots of huge laughs. Mark Ruffalo plays just a scoundrel, basically, who comes in and is like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna abscond with her essentially. And he has, of course, is a complete dipshit and does not realize that she has a child's mind. He's just like, oh, she's just a dumb woman. Like that's kind of his general outlook on her. And it's just much in the way that we talked about Downey Jr. being unshackled by the marvel of it all. Like, oh, you can still do this? Like, you still got this in you somewhere? Uh, this is Ruffalo having like more fun than I think I've ever seen him have on screen. He's
Hmm.
just like having an absolute ball, dude, and just crushing it. I had some true belly laughs come from his character. And again, Emma Stone, always incredible. She's absolutely crushing it on The Curse right now. Only 2 episodes left. I think she's probably gonna take home an Emmy for that. She's already won one Oscar, but I
Well,
I think we can firmly say that like she's gonna be one of those Meryl Streep figures. Like
we'll
she's
take
gonna
it.
have like 4 or 5 by the time it all said and done. So like I would not be surprised if she sneaks in there and pulls it for this. Just an absolute the transformation of her progression and the way she plays that both physically and just like th through every aspect of her performance is so dialed in. It's it, it's next level shit, dude. I don't know, dude. It's so good, so good. Yeah,
Well, I mean, take it back to earlier when you were talking about like you don't have like that like Apatow comedy or whatever. If you would have told me that from Superbad, she would be the one that like we're all still talking about, I'd have been like, you're crazy.
that she would end up basically being
She's the
like
one that like
the
yeah,
actress of her generation. Yeah,
right, yeah, and she was in that of all things, you know. Now, granted, she's great in that, and like you can see it there. There's the groundworks right there. You're like, oh, there's something here with this girl. Like she's
she's
not.
just
She's just different when it comes to
she's
all
one of
that.
those, and I mean, there's a lot of performers that do this, and the trick is like not making it feel performative, though, right? Because at least when I start kind of trying to dissect it, at least for the way I feel about this stuff, acting is essentially like it's a very ego-driven like profession in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
So
100%.
when we see, to me, when you see a performance that seems to like completely lack any sense of like vanity or ego, somebody who's like just 100% in it and is just comfortable being seen however, like
Right.
good, bad, and different, and it feels like they've truly gone to that place. Not that it's some like, performative, oh, I'm doing this wrenching thing because this like shows my humanity and I want you to like see me as a it's not that. It's not that kind of vulnerability, that like performed vulnerability. It's when I don't know, to me you can just see it and you can feel it sometimes when somebody is just truly like, I am only here in service of like this thing that I'm making to make it as best as it can possibly be. And she, particularly like just in this year, like I've always felt very strongly about her, but particularly this year, it's these two performances, The Curse and Poor Things, where I see somebody who is truly, it feels like such a cliched word that gets thrown around, but is just truly fearless. She has no concern or thought for like how she's going to be perceived, how this is going to like affect her career, any of that sort of shit. It's just this is this is the best thing for this character, this performance in this moment. Just 100% committed, believable in everything she does. And again, two performances that are like in complete polar opposite directions of each other. And she does them both immaculately. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could
I'm
argue, you
done.
know,
I'm done.
oh no, I'm saying you could argue that, you know, if you get called to go up on stage for La La Land, but then it turns out it wasn't La La Land, it was Moonlight, after that, nothing matters in your career. You can do whatever
I
you
mean,
want
to be
without any
clear,
sort of
she
fear.
she got her Oscar for that. That
I
was
know,
not
that's what I'm
called
saying.
back.
I'm
She
talking,
did in
yeah, I'm
fact win
talking
her
about like
Oscar
as a
though.
whole best, like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
She's gonna go up there with the rest of the people to be like, oh, what best film? And then it's like, oh no, it wasn't the best film. And she's like, well, I got best actress, so I'm good, y'all. Like,
yeah,
y'all look like an idiot. I don't. I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm
sure.
fine.
Um,
I'm not doing La La Land 2 the sequel. It's not happening.
yeah. Uh,
Okay.
Alrighty.
My number six.
That was my number six. You want to do your number six, and then
My,
uh, if you would like to, do you want to take a little break before the top five?
did we do? Are we not getting kicked off? We don't have the this the time stamp.
Well,
I thought. I
That's
was gonna say, I feel like,
it's a little Christmas present to my brother, I guess. But
oh
I
my
knew
God.
I figured we are gonna need to do this for a little bit, and
Uh-huh.
we got TRUEsDays coming up for the next couple months,
Yeah.
and obviously we're gonna need to do those over Zoom. So I went ahead and yeah, I did. I sprang for Zoom. I'm gonna pay for it monthly for the
Okay.
time being
Keep
because
the
I know we're gonna be
receipts
using
for
this a
your
lot.
taxes.
Uh, oh yeah, we could definitely. We'll just
Write
write
that
this
off.
off.
Yeah.
It did ask me if I was using this as a business, and I was like, yeah, the ARK of E. And then it was like, okay, enter your blah blah blah. I was like, I mean, I don't have all that, but I am a business. I was like, but I'm a real boy.
I should give
Uh,
me know the I gotta find my paperwork for the one I started. So yeah.
yeah,
Um,
but no, we're not getting kicked off. But we can
okay,
take an
yeah, we could do
actual break
six,
before the top five
top
because
five.
that'll
Yeah,
give
that'll
us a
work.
natural dividing point. We'll throw in some tunes. So hit
Yeah.
us with your number six, and yeah.
Oh, well, knowing that we're gonna kind of like take a break, it's kind of weird, but it is
I mean, you gotta.
leave the world behind.
No, this is great because we can have a nice solid discussion about it and then we can take a break.
Yeah,
Um, I did not care for this film.
you
Uh,
didn't.
but I knew you would, and I know
Yes.
this is your boy, and I
Yes.
would love to discuss it with you. And
I
here's a
was
great
so
venue. And again,
oh,
we don't have the recording getting cut off, so we can go as long as we want. It's the first one of the new year. We're
it's the
wrapping
first
out
day of the new
everything.
year.
And so
Oh,
if you don't want to hear any thoughts on Leave the World Behind, a movie that I think had kind of a moment on social media, a lot
oh
of
yeah.
thoughts thrown around about it. I think it's going to be an interesting talk because I think the things that you think that I don't like about it are probably not the things that I don't like about it. But I look forward to discussing it. This is going to be an extended chat about Leave the World Behind. If you don't care about a debate about this is one of our first points of contention on this list. Uh, if you don't want to hear about that, just keep fast forwarding until you hear some tunes because there's going to be a music break and then we'll be back for the top five on the other side of this. Your number six, tell people what it's about and why you liked it.
Okay, couple from the city decide to take a trip to a place that's not the city, that is kind of the beach, but also could be the city in the mountains because they can see it from there. Anyway, in New York, and as they're like there, they start to realize that maybe or maybe not, like there's something going on, and either the world is ending or like shit's going down, and they just the ambiguity of what's actually happening isn't there. But I mean, Mahershala Ali's in it, Julia Roberts is in it, um, Ethan Hawke, and as far as I'm concerned, I don't know who the I don't know remember the little girl, and I'm wondering like what the character would have been like had it been true to the novel and not changed. But I'm sorry, Mr. Kevin Bacon's in it for all of 20 minutes, if that. But yeah, but it's directed by
Sir Kevin Bacon.
sure Kevin Bacon, but it's directed by Sam Esmail. I don't know. I got really
I
excited.
guess I got the S Mailer version, brother.
Yes,
I don't know what it
yeah,
is. Go
I got
ahead.
so excited because when the first shot happened, I was like, wait a minute, this is a big boy movie. This is a real movie. This isn't out of frame. Her head isn't at the bottom three-quarters of the screen showing
Okay.
me the
Okay.
left. But then it slowly started moving into that, and I was like, "Oh, there he is. Okay, hey Sam, how's it going, buddy?" Because I've been getting Becky to watch Mr. Robot. Like we're in season two, and so having this come out like while we're in the middle of that, I'm like, "Oh, well, by the way, the guy who directed all those episodes of Mr. Robot that you kind of seem to like, but I can't tell how you feel about him right now. He made this movie, and I think you would like it. We should watch it." And of course, she fell asleep. So I was like, all right, I watched the whole thing. And then she's like, what happened with that movie? I was like, we can just watch it again. I'll watch it with you. And so I watched it again with her the next day, like the second day it was out. I don't know. I like, this is going to sound really stupid. Did you ever see Bushwick with
No.
Dave Bautista and
No.
Brittany Snow? It's basically like Brittany Snow is just kind of out and about in Bushwick, New Jersey or New York, whatever that area is. And like essentially World War III starts.
Okay.
And you get that it's a bunch of like right wing, whatever, but Batista's an ex-military person, And I've been just I think that I feel like that's on the tip of everybody's tongue because we keep hearing about all this shit going on that
So
people are thinking like, what's
so when
gonna
you saw
happen?
that the trailer for Alex Garland's Civil War,
Yeah,
were you just rock hard?
I blew a little bit of a load without touching
A
myself. It was
little bit of
crazy. Just a little bit.
yeah.
Especially
Okay.
when and it was only when Jesse Plemons showed up. So I don't know
Um
what that says about me.
um for real though, I mean, you want to talk about a director who we love, who's got a project coming out this year that
Yep.
is easily probably my most anticipated, just
Oh yeah.
right off the bat, and then that
Uh,
trailer drops, and I'm like, whoa,
oh,
it's just like, yeah,
you
that
got the
one's
guy
gonna
from
be a spicy meatball.
you got that guy from Narcos to come join your cast of devs and make a movie? Wow.
Where is he from? Because immediately I was like, I don't think I've seen this guy in anything, but literally just from the trailer, I was like, oh, is this guy? I'm
Pablo
like,
Escobar.
I'm, oh,
He's
okay.
Pablo in Narcos.
It's just because of the hair. I got
He's
it.
also been in a bunch.
But I
I
mean,
saw him in
dude,
two other things before. Wagner Mora, I think is his name.
Kirsten is just like an all-timer,
Yeah.
uh, especially in this household. Very excited for that. And I can't, that trailer looks amazing. I think this is also, people are starting to talk about it. This is, we're in a post A24 winning multiple best pictures at this point.
Yeah.
And they got the juice, they got the money, and they're saying Civil War is kind of the first like, hey, we're like we're fucking going for it a little bit. Like
Yeah.
we're not we're playing with the big boys. And you can see that in the trailer where I'm just like, no, this is a step up on every level. Like
Right.
yeah,
And so and if you're
I'm very excited. I don't know.
and to
Sorry,
me,
what
no,
movie are
no,
we talking about right now?
no, I'm saying, but
Leave
like
the
to
world
me,
behind.
you if you what if you did because the ambiguity in this film, this could easily be a precursor to that film. You see what I'm saying? Because you don't know. You have
Okay,
no idea what's going on.
that's a
And people have,
good.
and that's my thing because I'm not okay. I'm not afraid. I know I'm supposed to be. I know I've been programmed since, the early 2000s that I'm supposed to have this slight Islamophobia and I'm supposed to hate the other. Uh, I've said it before, I've said it again. My favorite director says there's two kind of stories. There's the hey, we're sitting around a campfire. The badness is out in the darkness, away from the campfire. That's scary. And the other's kind of scary is oh, the actual badness is around the fire with you. And I feel like that's gonna be if there's anything that's gonna happen, it's gonna be that because there's been one 9/11 and there's been 37,000 mass shootings. A couple of those people might have been Muslim. Guess what? They were born here. If they weren't born here, they got here and they were radical. What it doesn't matter. But the point is, we are really good. Again, Oppenheimer. We can blow ourselves up if we want to. We could also try and kill the other half of ourselves that doesn't agree with us because we just don't like that they don't do it. And to see, I think what people had a problem with within this is like the optimism and the willingness from Mahershala Ali's character to try and do what's best. And it comes through when the daughter character, who's supposed to be a wife, his wife in the book, not his daughter,
Right.
which I do love that twist because you have that hook in it of like this man's whole family may be torn apart because of this. We don't know, and the ambiguity of it all. But I think it's one of those things of like, well, we just don't know. We just don't know. We don't know what's going on. It's like, yeah, you don't. So but isn't that like what happens now? Like we don't know what the truth is. We get a certain version of it. We're not sure, you know, is it, is that weather balloon looking at everybody's thing? Does it really matter because we have TikTok and China knows what we look like anyway? Like, what's the big deal of it all? And so I think a lot of people wanted this to be, they wanted to know who exactly was doing this. Was this somebody from the outside? That's why everything's going to shit, or was it our own? Was it somebody from it? I think that's what people's problem with it was, but I don't think that's what the movie's about. I think it's just about like you see that like it, you kind of see that they get nowhere on their own. And it's only when they can all start to like lean on each other and kind of get over these things that biases and stuff like that that may like keep them, that like there's at least some initial hope that like things will be okay. It is structured with, the whole bit about like why are we sleeping in the basement of our own home? And in my head, I'm like, bro, if this was a situation, I'd rather be in the basement of my own home, because if somebody's coming into my home, I'd much rather them deal with the
Mm.
guests I have upstairs, or like the people that are upstairs that are paying to be here, and not me. You know what I mean? But that's not where you go. You instantly think like, yeah, it is super fucked up that these people are like staying in the basement of their own home, when the white people are staying upstairs. But I don't know. I
Okay.
thought it was interesting. I love the director. I'm glad that he got to make an actual a full-on movie, not just a bunch of episodes of TV. And again, I appreciate the change from the novel, but yeah,
I have, so this is where I was saying, like, I don't think what I disliked about it is what you would maybe assume.
yeah,
Everything that you're saying, it's like I agree. I think that is very much the story it is telling. And I think this is one of those cases where it's like I don't have an issue with what it's saying. I have an issue with how it's saying it, I guess is what I'm saying. Like,
right.
no, I guess for me, I'm like, no, I think it is an incredibly interesting setup to talk about like the miscommunication, like how you can isolate people through information, how we tear ourselves apart, like how somebody could weaponize that against us, the downfall of society. Like, I think all of that's incredibly interesting. It's just for me, unfortunately, it's like the movie itself is populated by characters that, again, not a prerequisite for me, but just characters that I fundamentally don't give a shit about, like at all. Like, I've had a very hard time investing in or really caring about.
Hmm.
Julia Roberts to me is like incredibly miscast. Like, I get that he's trying to do like I'm gonna take like America's sweetheart essentially and cast her as the Karen in this situation, but it never like fully delivers on that. I think it faints at like kind of investigating or like touching on like some things, and it's there's some aspects where it's like trying to be subtle and is almost self-satisfied with itself and like, okay, we're not going to hit that too hard. And then in other things, I feel like it hits everything with a fucking hammer. It's just like a lot of that. If I want to be like really unkind to it, some really, really questionable visual effects, like the flamingos, the plane crash,
Yeah.
etc. For my money, and you've talked about it on the show. Again, I haven't watched Mr. Robot. Some truly like masturbatory cinematography where I'm just like, this is just show off shit. Like, there's no like visual language here. You're not saying anything with this. You're just fucking whipping the camera around
Yeah,
for the hell of it.
I know. But if you watch Mr. Robot, you'd understand. It's just this thing, bro. Like you watched Homecoming, didn't you?
No, no, I
You didn't watch
didn't.
that show either?
No.
I think you would like the first season of Homecoming. You would like the second season with Janelle Monáe too. Um, I
I
get
think
it. I could see.
he's a choice guy for me, and the way he approaches some of this stuff is just frustrating. For instance, again, full spoilers for this movie. Again, it made a huge dent on Netflix. I feel like a lot of people have seen it, so I feel a little more comfortable talking through
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this one. Case in point, the ending. I'm talking about the ending, the
yeah,
final moment.
yeah.
I could have told you 20 minutes into this movie that that was the final shot
Uh-huh.
because Homeboy sets it up. I counted, brother. After I said that, he hits it two more times. And maybe this is a little bit of like, when stuff is so pitched directly at me, I'm like, fuck you. You don't know me. Get away.
You're
I
the
don't like
angry old
that.
man
I
now?
don't
Is that
like
what it
that.
is?
No,
Get off my
I'm gonna
lawn?
talk you through it, but like this, admittedly, this happens sometimes. There's the whole runner. The daughter's trying to watch the finale of Friends. Okay. A show I
Uh-huh.
love personally. I have,
Yeah.
pretty deep relationship to.
A
And
show that you watched the finale of
eventually, yeah, live when it
live.
happened. And it's like eventually the older brother, also the kids, I'm sorry, for me, fundamentally kind of took me out of it. They were very performery child performances. Like they didn't, I don't know. They felt very actory. That's beside the point.
The son was a Bobo Tim Chalamet to me. He was
I had
trying to be Tim Chalamet, but he
both,
couldn't.
I had issues with both. But anyways, at one point, the brother is like, "Why do you care so much about that stupid show?" And we're meant to have this moment that, again, I felt like was pitched directly at me to like get me to cry, basically, where she's like, they're they're my friends. Like they make me feel good. Like, and it's meant to be this moment where it's like it's a sentiment that a lot of people had during the pandemic, which was like, oh, I'm getting a lot of comfort in like rewatching or revisiting like TV shows or movies, things that are like comfort food for me, and like,
Hmm.
oh, the power of art, like blah blah blah. And instead, in the moment when she does that, all I'm sitting there thinking is like, oh yeah, it's crazy, dude. Like, you know, we do get so wrapped up in these fictional characters. I don't give a fuck about any of these characters though in this world-ending scenario. Like I was just it just further elucidated for me like, oh, I'm not like not vibing with any of this. And again, I feel like for Sam Esmail, I'm like, I've listened to him on podcasts. I love listening to him talk about pop culture because he's so passionate about it. And I'm like, I get that like he's talking to me, he's trying to make this statement of like, look at the power of art and like the importance of it in our everyday lives, blah blah blah. The importance of physical media, like keep your Blu-ray collection, like all that sort of stuff, dude. And
Right.
it's like it should be hitting me in all the feels, dude. And instead I had just like I was like, get it away from me. This is broke. I was like, don't pander to me. Fuck you, dude. Don't try and get me to like you, Sam. Like,
No, do you think you're just a
this
little
is my
upset? 'Cause-
brother's movie. I don't like you. Get away.
do
Um,
you think you're
but
just a
yeah,
little
I
you're still a
knew
little sad about Matthew Perry, and that's why you didn't really like all the Friends stuff?
yeah, I
You're
mean,
like a month out.
we didn't have to bring up all of that, but and I'm
I
really,
feel
you
like
know,
that's what your
but
problem is with it. It had been what if it had been Seinfeld?
no,
Would you have felt
it
the
was
same way?
truly no, I wrote it down in my I mean, okay. To be clear, I gave this movie a 6 out of 10. I did not hate it, but I could be really mean. And if I wanted to be mean, my note was fundamentally bad slash misguided script and performances, masturbatory cinematography, garbage visual effects, and a true wet fart of an ending that was so telegraphed. I wonder how Sam Esmail was allowed to run a show in the first place because he telegraphs that ending 4 fucking times as if he has no confidence in me as an audience member that I've been paying attention to the movie he's been making for the last 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it made me angry. It made me feel like, dude, like, fuck you. I got it. You didn't need to hit it this hard. Don't treat me like I'm dumb. And I didn't appreciate it. And
Okay, this
I felt
goes straight into
personally,
what
I
we've
felt
been saying,
personally
dude.
attacked multiple times, and
Right.
I didn't like it.
You
I knew you would. I knew we were gonna have to talk about it, and
you
now we
know a
have.
Blanchard who went to school and has seen movie stuff, and you know the entertainment business. You know that if I say something and I set it up here, it's a Chekhov's gun, and we're gonna end with a daughter in a bunker with food watching Friends. The only problem I have with that ending, she's eating way too much fucking food. Like she's not that hungry. I
Okay.
get, you know.
Other just like glancing blows, if you will. Uh, you take my boy Ethan Hawke. You give him nothing to do. I feel like he disappears from like 2/3 of the movie. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Uh,
But I think he plays a
the
perfect, like modern, like to
for
me,
sure, but I'm just like, go ahead.
no,
Sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
he plays the perfect like switch of a man of like he was probably a dude back in the day. He walked the mean streets of New York. He maybe threw down, but then he had children. And he also has like a
He got
ball
soft.
busting, powerful wife, right?
Yeah.
And so now he's saying it. I'm a fucking useless man, but my kid is sick. Help me. And it shows you perfectly. Mahershala Ali knows what he knows the deal. He doesn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to let his daughter get too scared, which again, I would love to see the dynamic if it was if it was a wife and not a daughter. I'd love to see who they cast as that and see that her playing against Sandra Bullock and not the, but I thought the little girl who was her daughter was really good. Like, again, acting with I was about to say Sandra Bullock. Maybe I already said that. Having her play against Julia Roberts. But like Mahershala Ali, I feel like he knows the deal, even though he don't want to admit it. And he's still trying to do quote unquote what's right. And Kevin Bacon's just like, bro, you don't get it. Like, whether this is it or not, like shit's different now. Okay. Like, and the fact that this all takes place where it does, I don't know where it actually is. I don't know how they got the visuals, but like being able
I
to
think we're meant
look
to be
literally across,
upstate New York,
yeah,
right?
just across the bay. I'm not really good with the geography of New York. Just
They got beaches.
they do, but then I've also heard like don't go to like Staten Island and like I know they're closing Coney Island and stuff like that. But I get like there is New York City, then there is New York State. I understand that. I'm
Yeah.
not dumb, but like
They're
just
up
the
in like
idea
the
of the,
Hamptons, right?
I guess, yeah,
Aren't
somewhere in
they?
there. But it's like you can't leave there unless you go back through the city. Like, I don't get it. They're kind
It's
of
an
walled
island,
off.
right?
Right.
They're in the Hamptons, I'm pretty sure.
Essentially, yeah, I would assume it's what you call it. Martha's Vineyard, I don't know. Anyway, Amity Island, who knows? Um, but yeah, I
Again,
I
I thought it had a very interesting premise. It just, unfortunately for me, I thought, A, it was like far too long. And I
mhm,
felt like the constant, like, it kept me engaged in as much as I was like, okay, I'm kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. I am curious for like where we go with this. Not that I felt like we necessarily needed a resolution. And the movie at the same time doesn't give you a definitive one, but it does give you like a pretty compelling, like, I think what might be going on is like, what if just a few of our enemies like kind of got, got their shit together, and this was the strategy, which is basically just like isolate us and let us wipe ourselves out because that's what we'll fucking do, right? I felt
right.
like what a compelling premise. And I'm sitting there in the closing like 10, 15 minutes of the movie, and I'm like, I kind of wish we had started here. Like,
Yeah.
this is some interesting shit. Like, I kind of would like to see a movie that starts at this. And to that point, you said, this could very much be a prequel for Civil War. And I'm like, um, I mean, yeah, I'm way more excited to see that movie. Um, one last quibble. I'm sorry. You give me Mahershala Ali and Julia Roberts, two of the sexiest people over the age of 40 on planet Earth. Okay. You give me a scene with them dancing together. I just, and then they play it for laughs, man.
Yeah, the dancing she does, I'm just like,
I
good
wanted
God.
the steam. I needed the steam. Where was the steam? We could have we could have finally had a corrective for all those years ago back in Pelican Brief where it was like they can't do it. She can't touch Denzel. We can't let it happen. Like
Yeah.
it's like God forbid. Um we could have had a corrective. Instead we play it for laughs. I'm just like literally I should be on the edge of my seat. I should be like the sexual tension in this room. My God. Instead, uh, they do nothing with it. They do nothing with it.
Yeah.
Uh, I felt like there was just, there was a lot more room to actually like, I almost would have enjoyed it more if we really went for that pressure cooker, pot boiler play sort of setup where it's like, all right, well, this movie is clearly concerned with like, let's fucking have it out. Like, whether you want to look at it as a straight allegory for the pandemic or just where we're at societally, whatever. Like, why not like yeah, let's have these representative figures for these different like mentalities or whatever, like white liberalism, fucking Karens, whatever. um and let's you know let's have it out, let's get it all in a room and like really fucking do that. And the movie doesn't really seem to be concerned with doing that either. Again, I think that was my frustration where I was like, it hints at a lot of these things and like kind of wanting to be issues driven, or aren't we like saying some interesting things about like, doesn't this make you think? And it was like, yeah, but I'm not engaged with the story you're telling as much as like the themes around the the story you're telling, I guess is where I came away from it.
Again, we said it. You're an educated watcher. So you are going to think that. And I get that you should make movies for the smartest common denominator of people who are watching them. You need to assume that everybody's smart. They're going to get it. Not not dumb it down for your audience. But I was looking at it as the way it's going. And I'm watching it thinking like, I see this. I understand what this is. It's not for everybody, but for those who like really engage in it, they're also the kind of people who think that like maybe the election was stolen. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, there
the
was,
people who,
weren't there a lot of like QAnon people who were like, no,
right.
this movie is like full of messages for us. And I was like,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
produced by the Obamas. And it's
Yeah,
like, Sam Esmail is pretty openly like, he would tell you, you're fucking crazy. I
exactly.
am,
Right. So,
I'm interested in conspiracy theories, but I'm about as liberal as they come. I hate Donald
so
Trump.
again,
And
if you,
that's where I was like, wait, it's having this whole other life on the internet that I was not even aware of, where I was
right.
just like, I had a completely
So,
different reaction to this movie,
again,
dude.
because of the fact that like Homecoming and then Mr. Robot, and there's so many things in Mr. Robot that I see in here that I'm like, this motherfucker is fucking with us. And that's how I felt watching it, to the point
See,
that
and
like
yeah, maybe you're, yeah,
there's a baked in thing with him as being the person that, and that's a lot of it, because if I didn't know him, I didn't have that baked in, like built in with Mr. Robot, and I'm just a casual viewer, I'm gonna get really excited about like, oh, this could really happen. Well, oh, maybe, he talked to the Obamas about it to see what might actually happen in security stuff. Oh, wow. But I'm watching it thinking like, oh, there's people who are gonna watch this and they're gonna get hard-ons watching this shit. I get it. And I'm also watching it being like, I think I know what he's doing here. Because, like you said, I will meet you there. There are, if you boil it down, you're not, because I'm agreeing with you. Some of these characters and some of the way that they're thrust into doing stuff and some of the ways that it's all fleshed out, it leaves you where you're kind of like, I don't really feel invested or care. And I'm like, what are we doing here? But if you think about that as an active thing that he chose to make happen, and you couple that with the ending of really the little girl, just it's all about like the little girl is like the common Netflix viewer or the common viewer in general who just wants the power to be on long enough so they can watch their
yeah,
episode of TV
while the fucking world
while
burns.
the
Like,
world
yeah, no,
burns.
there's the
Like
really
that,
cynical view of it as well.
that
Yeah, 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 yeah,
cynicism is what I've pulled
absolutely.
from it as a whole. And like that's why I love it, is because like the people who think this shit was amazing, as far as like it could really happen and like all this and that, it's like you were all the little girl who just wants to watch Friends. You just want someone to tell you what's going on, tell you it's going to be okay, and tell you they're going to do something different. AKA, you want somebody like Donald Trump, somebody you think thinks that has all the right answers. Instead of asking the questions yourself, you want them to ask the questions to themselves and answer them for you so you feel fine, perfectly fine. You were
Yeah.
all that little girl just wanting to watch Friends. I'm the person on the other side looking at this being like, wow, you know, it'd be really funny is if this literally was just, you know, this was all of not, this wasn't anything to do with anybody else outside of our own borders. It was literally just the state of Pennsylvania
Well, I
that did it
think,
all to New York,
I think,
or the
okay.
state of, or like Washington, D.C. just did it to, what if this is all a CIA bit? And it's just that they miscalculated and like, oops, a couple things blew up in New York, and that's what happened. You know, because if if they know that this shit works in foreign countries, why would they not use it here? The shit that the country has done to us that's been declassified, sometimes some of it's a little bit fucked up, but it's crazy when you're like, oh, it's all these conspiracy theories. Some of the shit they actually, it's a lot worse than the theories people come up with. And
Right.
I just, for that, I
Well,
appreciate that. One, and of course, I like the dude. I
Well, and that's what I
know,
was gonna say. A year where I'm getting payoff from like tons of people that I'm a huge fan of, and it's like I don't even know
and
if you knew this was coming. I've
no, I
been
did, dude.
hearing about it
I
for a
opened it up and it was
year
available, and I
because
was like, okay. And then
he's
I found out it
heavily
was him.
involved with The Ringer sporadically and guests on
Right.
different podcasts there. And they just I guess that's also been another thing is like a certain amount of the coverage I've heard surrounding it. And then when it came out, there was that reaction where I'm like, well, you guys gotta say you fucking like it. You're not gonna have him on the show and be like, hey Sam, this movie fucking sucks. You know what I'm saying? And there was that feeling of like, oh, well, can I even like take your like, this is how you guys actually feel about it? About people who I normally am like, oh, okay, I'm curious what they thought of, the current releases and stuff. Um,
I'm sure they
but
have a per
again,
pay episode
sorry,
you can listen to.
excuse me. All of that being said, I'm like, dude, no, I'm glad this is one of your dudes. And I fully admit, I'm like, if I had the history of Mr. Robot and Homecoming, I would maybe speak his language a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I would maybe approach this in a different way or get more of like, oh, this is how he does things. This is his sensibility. Because admittedly, this is kind of, I guess you would say, throwing me a bit into the deep end because while it is an adaptation of a pretty popular novel, I know he took a lot of liberties with it and it is very much like it's a Sam Esmail project at
Hmm.
this
Yeah.
point. Um, and again, I didn't hate it. I was just frustrated by a lot of it.
Yeah.
What got me through at the end of the day, Mahershala Ali, I mean, literally undefeated. He's never bad in
Yes.
anything, and he still
No.
gets like two monologues in this movie to just absolutely like cook with. It's great, great stuff. I was a little, I was a little let down by the Julie of it all, just because I hadn't seen her in anything in a bit. I didn't see
Yeah.
the Clooney rom-com from last year, and I was just a little like I thought she was a little miscast. And then, like I said, Ethan Hawke kind of feels like he disappears. Uh, I mean, this was the perfect way to cap our little break.
Hmm.
I thought you might have this one on your list, and I'm glad we got to talk about it because I know a lot of people loved it. You know,
Hmm.
huge fans, but also very divisive. Where there's a lot of people who just did not go for it. Uh, but I think we had a nice little chat about it. So we're
Oh
gonna
yeah,
take
definitely.
a little musical interlude, and then we will be back with our top five favorite films of 2023. We'll see you two and two.
Bleep, bloop.